Welcome to another episode of the Dentology Podcast, where we discuss the business of dentistry. In this podcast series, we'll be discussing all the non-clinical aspects of dentistry, from goodwill values, finance, marketing, how to buy and sell a dental practice, mindset, through to where you can invest your money in team management issues. My name is Andy Acton, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Strevens. Let's jump straight into it. So welcome to our latest episode of Dentology, the Business of Dentistry podcast, and today we are absolutely delighted to be joined by Tracey Stuart. And Tracey is a successful dental business coach, a dental team trainer, has a background working in dental practices, so she's walked the walk and undertook a personal transformation during COVID, which we're going to talk about, which was absolutely remarkable. I've known Tracey for about 15 years, same for you, isn't it? About 15
I don't know,
years?
I might have known her longer, can't remember really.
And the own personal development and growth that she's gone through since I've known her has been absolutely remarkable. So it'd be good to find out how all that came about. So welcome, Tracey. How are you doing?
I'm phenomenal. I'm really well, thank you.
Good,
Hi,
good.
Tracey. Good to see you.
And
You
you're
too.
talking us from sunny Cornwall. I hope it's sunny. Let's pretend it's sunny.
Oh, it is. The sun is coming through my window. It's amazing.
Does the sun always shine in Cornwall? Is that what you're telling us?
Well,
That's why you moved there.
it did when I was on holiday down here. We've had quite a bit of rain, but hey, I think it's going to be an amazing summer.
Yeah, good.
It will be. It will be. I want to get into the business bit because I think that's going to be a fascinating chat in itself. But before we do that, can you just take us right back, even before the dental days? What was your upbringing like? What were you like as a kid? How did the whole thing start for you?
Yeah, that would be interesting. What were you like as a kid?
I was, I'd say as a kid, I was quite reserved.
Right.
I was certainly not the person I
So
am now.
that's changed a bit then.
Oh, without a doubt. I wasn't the cool kid. I was certainly the non-cool kid. I wasn't the one that was in the popular class. My sister, however, was the one that was in the cool group. But she's 5 years younger than me, and so yeah, I definitely wasn't outgoing. I kept myself to myself. I didn't have lots of friends. I was pretty much a loner. I suppose kept my head down and kind of just got on with things.
Mm-hmm. And was that a conscious decision because you felt a quiet person and you wanted to kind of just stay off people's radar? I only find it interesting for how you are now. You know, you're a big personality. You're incredibly confident in terms of how you present yourself. So there's also been a transformation in terms of. But was it a conscious decision as a child to kind of just mind your own business, stay out of the way, not go looking for trouble?
I think it's. I think we all have a mask to a degree, and I think it was probably a safety net for me.
Right.
And if you don't expose yourself, if you don't get seen, then you can't actually. No damage can really come to you. So I think for many years I had a big cage, and that was my protective layer. As for personality, I think that's an interesting one. And I obviously do a lot of coaching on personalities, being an accredited trainer. And there are two different sides to anybody: the person that you see in business and the person you see outside of business. So outside of work, I'm not the life and soul of the party until I get to know somebody. So, for example, if I were to come on a course today and I was to sit on a chair between the two of you, I wouldn't even say hello. Because that side of me is quite nobody will believe it, but it's quite a quiet, shy, timid person. If you were to start talking to me, then you wouldn't be able to shut me up. So hey, I might end up being single for a long time because I'm not going to go into a pub and go, hi, do you fancy a drink, love?
But also, I think you're right. I think lots of people in business, you do play a character, and I think where I think it unnerves people is the character you play in business is so far from the reality of you. I think the closer you can bring your true personality into your business world, the more congruent everything feels. There's nothing worse than meeting somebody who's this kind of really bouncy, bubbly character, but then that's not them when you meet them. And I think that's almost become more relevant with social media because you get to see an awful lot more people than you ever would before. And what you were saying about your childhood, about kind of keep your head down, don't do anything wrong, don't get on people's radar. I was reading something recently about people's fear of failure, and their fear of failure kind of feeds into this feeling of shame. And people say, well, if I just don't do stuff, then nothing will ever go wrong. And if nothing ever goes wrong, I'm never going to be embarrassed, I'm never going to fail. But what life is that? So many opportunities are going to be missed, and becoming comfortable with things that go wrong. And you're in business and we're in business. You get used to failure pretty quickly because things go wrong all the flipping time. And once you get used to accepting some failure, that helps you grow, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, if you look at the way that the kids are being brought up now, especially in private school, it's interesting because I do a lot of coaching with associates, and then I'll get a message going, "You're not going to believe this. Charlie brought home his homework, and it's exactly what you were talking about on that growth mindset," and which is great. And I think it's lovely that kids are being brought up like that, because they're not going to have to go through some of the stuff that we've gone through, because I certainly went through that, and I think there is, whether it's a child and they're looking at the TV and they're looking at the celebs and their role models and thinking they have to look a particular way. I think there was certainly side on the coaching side of things, expecting that I had to be a particular way. And so it's probably taken only the last couple of years and through COVID for me to kind of go, I'm good enough as I am.
I found yourself.
I can't be like Chris, Andy or Sheila. I'm Tracey Stuart. I may not be everybody's cup of tea, but hey, that's me.
And that's what makes you unique, though, isn't it? That you are Tracey Stuart. That's what makes all of us unique. But the interesting thing is understanding and accepting that that's what makes us unique. We don't have to be someone else.
I was going to say, it's hard enough being yourself, let alone trying to be somebody that you're not, because at some point you get found out. But that thing you said as well, you're good enough. So many people don't get that. They assume they're always falling short. They should always be somebody else. They should always be better. But I think when you get to a stage of contentment, when you say, actually, I am good enough. I'm very happy with where I'm at. It doesn't mean you don't want to grow and get better, but you're content with yourself where you're at.
Before we get to your, and it sounds a bit naff really, but your sort of transformation experience and story, Tracey, did you go straight from school to be, because I met you, I think, first time when you were at that practice where you were, I think you were like the TCO, but I'm not too sure they were called TCOs in those days. But did you start, was your first job dentistry? Is that how you sort of got into it?
No. I actually, when I was at school, I did languages. Wanted to travel the world. And I think I was probably 15 or 16 at the time, and I'd gone into a travel agent, and I wanted to travel the world, and they wanted me to make tea and bloody stamp brochures. I was like, I was cut out for more than stamping brochures.
That's a bump down to earth, isn't it? You had Bali, Australia, the west coast of the States.
So let's say it didn't work out, and let's say Mum made it very clear that you weren't going to be sat on your arse. You were either going back to college or you were getting a job. And it was Mum. She opened up the local paper. She rang the local dental practice.
Oh, and she rang it?
Suddenly I was a trainee dental nurse with the biggest needle phobia in the world. So
excellent.
It's remarkable, really, how things happen.
Yeah.
But it's funny, we were talking to somebody earlier on and we were saying about, did you ever have a plan to be doing what you're doing? And he was like, well, no, not really, but 5 years in, really enjoying it, and it's going really well, and I'm having a great time. And it's like with you, your mum opens the paper, you end up working in a dental practice. There was no plan or thought that this would be something you do. You also enjoyed it. You worked in practice for a while, and now you've got a whole career advising, supporting, coaching, training dentists. Yeah. And if your mum had opened a newspaper on another page, you might have been a hairdresser.
Or a plumber.
Yeah.
Or a model.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a model.
Exactly. Anything was possible.
I tell you what I'm intrigued about, Tracey, and I mean, we've known you for a while. The languages thing. So do you still keep a foreign language in your head, or do you not practice? Is it sort of like just out of practice?
The bits and pieces, but if I go on a ski holiday and we're going to Germany or France, there'll be the little bits, probably the words that I shouldn't know.
What is it with foreign languages? We always learn those words, isn't it? That's like your go-to, isn't it?
It's brilliant. Yeah. How can I swear in a foreign language?
So on the work side of things, so you're in a dental practice, and you've obviously worked in a number of different practices in a number of different roles. But what was it like back then, in terms of patient experience? 'Cause I know that's like a massive thing for you and the people that you work with, to make sure that the experience of the patient is something that's exceptional and memorable, and all those good things. But in your early days of working in dental practice, what did the patient experience look like? Was there much of an experience?
Yeah, I think so. I think I was really fortunate that I've always worked in practices that customer service has been really high. It is interesting. I think we did two checkups and a fill-in in 15 minutes. When people like talking about being busy, come back to my day, and you were the dental nurse and you were the receptionist. But there was still a degree that the phone needed to be answered in a certain manner, a certain time. And then, before I kind of got into sort of my own business, the practices that I worked with, I worked with probably 3 or 4 practices that took the entire team over to America and worked with the best coaches so that we could bring that back into our practices. So I just think I was fortunate that I worked with business owners that actually invested in their team.
Wow. How long have you been going individually then? When did you set up MBS?
Since 2013.
Wow, really? Flip.
No, I don't look bad on it, do I?
No, I mean, it's that classic thing, isn't it? That
Time
unless
flies.
you can really put a timestamp on it. Because what's that? That's coming up for
9 years.
9 years, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd have to do something for the 10th year, all down to Cornwall.
Yeah, big party. Right, like that. We're in. We're sorted.
Yeah.
You need to you'll be making all that money, so you need to get a big boat and some champagne. And then let's hope no one falls off it.
Got to find the fisherman.
But I mean, we all know that any new business, the first couple of years are the most critical. The failure rate of new businesses in the first 2 years is awful. So to be here 9 years later, and we all know, because of what's gone on in the last couple of years, that none of us have the right to exist. But to be here 9 years later, and you to have built the network you've got and the services you deliver and the way you go about it, that really is phenomenal. We have this thing, we were talking about it the other day, that as a business owner, nobody actually says to you, well done, because you're responsible for it. When you work in an organisation or you work in a business or with other people, quite often there's congratulations going around. But as a business owner, you just get used to the fact that people don't say to you, well done. So honestly, well done, because but you're 9 years in, and that as a self-employed individual person who's responsible for everything in your business, that's brilliant.
And I think an
Absolutely
individual, I always, we're very lucky because there's the pair of us. But I think as an individual, I feel it's harder. Because at least we can say, we can moan to each other about something or bounce something off. Or as an individual, you're sort of, it's you, isn't it? You make the calls. I know you've got friends and people you can talk to, but they're not invested in it like you are, because it's yours.
Got a good collection of teddies. They don't argue back.
What was going back to 2013 there, what was your motivation to become a business owner? Was owning a business important to you, or was that the byproduct of the thing you wanted to do?
No, I never ever wanted. That was far too scary. It was just that an opportunity came my way.
That's the childhood Tracey coming out there, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it was far too risky for me to do anything like that. It was an opportunity, and I'm just fortunate that lots of my friends are coaches, and they would ask some tough questions, and you would then go deep inside and kind of go, well, what is the worst that can happen? If it goes tits up, you're still a qualified dental nurse, you're still a qualified practice manager, life will go on. But ultimately, as that strong D-type personality, there's also that fear of failure. If I'm going to do it, then it's got to be successful.
Yeah,
because I can't fail.
Yeah, but you strike me as somebody who's found their place. And by that, what I mean is, if I always use Ed Sheeran as an example. Ed Sheeran is a guy who is a phenomenal writer, performer, and in a younger Ed, his mum may have opened the newspaper and he could have ended up being a hairdresser or an accountant. But he became that guy. And when you see him perform, there's almost like a flow of how he does it. It's the right guy doing the right thing. And I see that you're one of those people who's doing the right thing.
You found your place.
What you're doing. And did you always have a plan to work towards this being where you wanted to end up? Or was it just kind of those stepping stones just kept kind of appearing in front of you and you just kept walking and that's where you've ended up? Or was there a moment when you said, I am going to get to a point where I'm going to be a qualified coach, a qualified trainer, I'm going to support people, they're going to grow, and this is what my plan's going to be? When did that start to formulate?
I think that's only really sort of formulated and been clear in the last 2 years. I knew that I always wanted to help people, and I truly believe that's what I do. It's never about me, and it's not the Tracey show. It's about helping other people be better versions of themselves and making healthier choices so that not only in their business but also in their personal life that they can be happy. Because if there's one thing that I've learned in my transformation is, you only get one life, and we all deserve to be happy.
No, I think that's and you mentioned that transformation and you documented it online through social media, but your own personal transformation through COVID was nothing short of remarkable.
Yeah,
in terms of how you invested in yourself and you changed your physical appearance, which then I'm sure would have also impacted your internal feelings on yourself and your mental well-being. Has that mind, body and soul thing always been important to you, or was it like a switch being flicked where it suddenly became something you focused on?
It was a switch that was flicked as I got into coaching.
Right.
And, there was a lot of the techniques and skills and a huge amount on self-awareness that I was actually helping others with, but kind of avoiding it myself. And I think, when COVID hit and you were sat at home with your thoughts and you had no choice, apart from brushing your teeth or putting your lipstick on, I didn't have to look at myself. And then Zoom came and it was like, holy Christ. It was like every bloody day, 5 hours a day. It's like, can you think of anything worse? And, then Boris was coming on and saying that if you're over 40, you're fat, you've got an underlying health condition, you're dead. And then I remember walking down the road and all the shops were shut, so the lights were off, and you could see in the windows.
Mm-hmm.
And I kid you not, I walked past this shop and there were two massive windows. And I tell you what, I think my tits were in one and my arse was in the other, and it was like, baby girl, you've seriously got to do something now.
And so give us
a defining moment.
Yeah. So for people that didn't see on social media the change, which was remarkable, what were the numbers in terms of how it affected you? What was the total loss? I'm not looking to find out where you're at. I'm just trying to give people the scale of the transformation for you was amazing.
And the timing.
Amazing.
You know me, I'm an open book. I won't give you my bust measurements, but I was. I was a size 24 in clothes. I was over 16 stone in weight. And
you're not very tall, are you?
No, I'm a short ass. I'm 5 foot nothing. Thanks for reminding me there, Chris.
Just thought I'd mention it. I'm just trying to help people visualise, Tracey. I'm getting them to picture that image.
And so, I think we worked it out. I think it was 51 weeks. I lost 7 stone. And
wow.
Depending what shop I'm in, I'm size 8 or 10. But it was never really about the size of clothes.
Yeah.
It was literally a feeling of actually being able to go into a normal shop and actually have something that fitted rather than jogging bottoms.
I mean, that, as like I say, I think it's amazing. And do you feel, for where you are now, do you feel that job is now done, or is it something that you constantly have to work on? Have you completely shifted your mind? Because I think the thing is, with lots of things with diet and transformation, quite often people commit to it for a period of time, they get a result, and then ultimately kind of it sort of unravels itself. But you said that the desire to transform kind of came out of coaching, which is kind of a behaviour mindset thing that is obviously represented in your improved outlook in terms of your health and well-being. So is it something that is now locked into you in terms of how you are, in that this is the new Tracey? This isn't something you constantly have to keep working on to stay in that shape?
Yeah, it's locked in that, as in, I have to work on it. It's constant work. You never get to a point that you're there and it's job done. It's no different to a business owner. You know, you can't work with me for 12 months and say job done. You know, it's constant working on it. But it is the self-awareness. So, you know, I certainly got to a particular stage and I'd lost the weight. And then, you know, there was a period of found the cookie cupboard and, you know, things went backwards for a while. But it's the awareness of the little voice that you have inside us. We all have it, but I certainly wasn't aware of it. So I'd go around the supermarket and my trolley would be full of stuff that's maybe not great choices. And now I'm very aware of that voice in anything. Even if I happen to be in the gym and, you know, Jack will say to me, we're going to be lifting, you know, 100k of weight. And my voice goes, you know, there's no way in hell I can do that. And then another little voice goes, shut up, you've got this. Just get on with it. You can do this. And it is just being very conscious of that voice now, because I don't want to go back to being unhappy. And it, you know, yes, the weight probably contributed to that, and other things that were happening in my life, but it's not about I want to always be a size 8 or 10 or I want to be a particular weight. I want to have energy and I want to be happy. And if being that weight and that size is what I need to do to make it happen, then that's what needs to happen.
And it's beyond willpower, isn't it? It's almost getting to a stage where you're constantly making good choices. And I imagine it's probably a bit like muscle memory, in that those good choices continue to reinforce further good choices. And the more you do it, and like you say, we're all acutely aware, you can always kind of fall off that wagon at any moment, can't you? But I guess the longer you stay in that place where it gets reinforced, the more likely it is you're going to keep making good choices.
And I think the biggest thing for me is never tell yourself you can't have something. You know, I'll still have my wine at the weekend. I'll still have a curry now and then. It's just that, you know, I'm not classed as a family member in the curry place because I'm not there on 2 or 3 times a week.
Usual table?
Yeah. Miss Stuart.
It was, you know, king prawn masala and a glass of wine.
You obviously do business coaching and team training. As a result of the personal transformation you've been through, do people now come to you for kind of almost like health and personal transformation advice because they've seen the results you've got?
Not necessarily the people that I'm working with, but I've certainly had strangers, if you like, reach out to me on private messages.
Be very careful accepting those messages. Honestly, that's a rabbit hole to go down.
Or is that your OnlyFans website?
You know, people are kind of in a hole and don't know where to go. And, you know, I suppose I share with them what the personal trainers I worked with shared with me. Is it's not about the personal training and the exercise or even the diet to such a degree. It's about the mindset and the thoughts and controlling those, because without that, then nothing else works. So, I'm not going to write a book going, it's the Tracey Stuart diet. I might earn some more money out of it. But the fact is, it is about it's raising your self-awareness, being aware of those thoughts and feelings, because this is a computer up here. And at the end of the day, it's actually being in control of the software that you're running.
No, it's interesting. We've mentioned a couple of times that you're a coach and a trainer. Can you just explain for a Luddite like me and him the difference between coaching and training? How do they differ?
Well, I suppose it's you're lots of different things. It's like any practice manager at the moment, you're somebody's friend, you're somebody's manager, you're a coach, you're a trainer, you're a mentor, you're all the things that you basically need to be. It's just recognising what hat you need to wear at any particular time. I think the coaching is really helping somebody to understand themselves better. It gives you a completely different set of tools. So when I'm in practices, the first session is lots of assessments, helping people to understand their emotions, they're understanding their personalities, they're understanding their working styles and their drivers. And, lots of the stuff that I do with people comes from just how crazy my life is, because nobody will ever be able to say I've copied them, because my emotional triggers assessment that the team do, that came from my speed awareness class when I got done with speeding. I literally 2 weeks ago almost drove off a mountain and my car went in for a service just to make sure that it was going to be okay. And then from that, I've then actually developed a kind of a follow-up system using WhatsApp. And again, all of that has actually come from what they sent me looking at my car.
Wow.
So, it's, I think, you'd have to step into the crazy world of Tracey Stuart to understand where it all comes from. And I don't know where it comes from sometimes.
No. The great thing about that is it's very hard to copy, isn't it?
Oh, there's only one.
That's it. Well, you is you, so therefore you can't mimic you. No. So therefore it makes it unique, which is obviously what people are attracted to, in the fact of your style appeals to some, and I think you say, Tracey, appeals to some, but doesn't appeal to others, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the way it should be.
You can't be all things to everybody, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And so from the coaching side, can anybody be coached, or does the start point have to be an open mindset, and are some people more coachable than others, or isn't that what you find?
This is my own personal belief on it, and I'm sure that others would have different beliefs. But I do believe that everybody can be coached, but not everybody wants to be coached. So, right. For example, you can help anybody, but not everybody wants your help. And I think when you are somebody that wants to help people, that's quite a bitter pill to swallow. So you might see a patient and they might have a really manky mouth, and you know that you've got the skills to actually make things a lot better. But you also have to respect that they may not want that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's sometimes quite hard, isn't it? When you know you can fix something or make something better. But then I suppose going back to that thing of, if the person doesn't want to get better or doesn't recognise it, or that
if they don't want to change, then they won't change. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And so, for example, you might have a resistant team member. I had this recently. We turned up on Zoom, and the first conversation was banging the screen, saying, "What are you going to teach me about dental practice? I've been in dental practice before you were born." And 10 years ago, the old Tracey would have been right, you little so-and-so.
Yeah. You'd have gone on the offensive, yeah.
And it was like, there's something going on here. And so my initial reaction to give myself some space would be, "Oh, Andy, bless you. At least I know that bloody Botox is worth the money I'm spending on it." Just break the ice. But there's always something going on underneath. You could see a fluffy duck on the water and looks absolutely at peace and gorgeous, but it could be wrapped up in wire, and you've just got no idea what's going on underneath the surface. And what coaching does is it gives you the skills and the technique to peel the layers off the onion and find out what that problem is, to be able to offer the help.
It's funny, we have a similar thing we've obviously worked together in the past, and you know that we value and sell dental practices. And there's a similar thing in that we say to our guys, you never know the backstory, you never know what's going on. And buying or selling a business is a stressful thing to do. It's like sort of buying or selling a house, but on steroids. It's a hard thing to get through. So people are stressed. So we're dealing with people at a stress moment in time. And I'm sure for lots of the people you work with, whilst they know there's going to be a positive outcome, quite often when people are going to go through a change of some sort, there's either stress associated with that. So you probably don't always get to see people in their best of times, because when somebody turns up to make a change of some sort, lots of people are resistant to change. They see it as being a threatening thing. So your approach of kind of breaking down barriers and getting on an equal footing to then work from there makes a lot of sense.
Well, also, I'd say I'm probably the most hated person on the planet on day one, because the business owner has invited me in. The team don't want me in. They're actually quite happy doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of resistance. And, but, that first day when we actually, it's not about this, it's the Tracey way, do it my way, or, it's the highway. And they start to understand people. It might be, oh, gosh, that's you. You come in with that resting bitch face, that's the one you pull, and you're just that bloody D, and it's fun. And it's, I think the most rewarding part for me is, initially everyone's looking at getting out of dentistry, they're looking at going and get a job in middle, and suddenly, and it takes a good 4 months, sometimes it can take 11 months, depending on what I'm dealing with, but suddenly that person is skipping into work, and they actually love their job. And, then the new person comes in and they're going, oh, but, we have to do things this way. This is the way that we do things. And, my job is then very easy because they're doing it for me.
Yeah. I must admit, you did some, when I saw, I think, some of your LinkedIn posts, I loved the fact that you, I can't remember, it must have been down your neck of the woods or somewhere near a beach, where you actually took the team, and that was part of the program, part of whatever your training program. And I thought it was brilliant. It just reminded me, when you were at school and you would go and read out on the field by a tree, and it was all really exciting because you were outside. Yeah. And I just thought it was really smart, because you take them out of the environment and the practice and put them to somewhere where most people love being on a beach. Because I thought it was quite funny, I can't remember where, I don't know where it was, Tracey, but I remember I remember seeing the picture of people sitting around with no shoes on, with like their books with pencils or whatever you get them to write about themselves. And I was just thinking, what a brilliant way of learning, rather than sitting in a dental surgery. You've actually got them out, enjoying the outside and all that sort of stuff. And it made me thought that's a brilliant way of communicating with them, to unlock them.
I think the only sad thing about that, though, Chris, is you tend to get that more from the corporate companies.
Right.
You don't get it from a traditional dental practice. They're very much in the mindset that it's got to be done in the practice, or it's got to be done in a hotel. But actually, coming out, we had no idea what the weather was going to be like that day, and sitting on the beach, and it was a blinding day.
Yeah, it almost takes them. I in my head, I was thinking it's a really good way, because you sort of put them off guard a bit. When you're in a hotel or in a practice, aren't you? They're sort of in work mode.
Yeah.
But you sort of almost get them to fall out of work mode, because they're sitting on a beach, and the beach is always like relaxing mode. So I'd imagine, I don't know, that's really sad, isn't it? That dental practice owners don't sort of get it, because they've sort of got it in the fact they've engaged you, but then go the other part where you say, look, actually, I think we'd get more out of them if we took them to the park or the beach or whatever it is. But I just thought it was really smart. I thought it was a really good idea.
But we all know we get so much more out of experiences if we're enjoying ourselves.
Yes.
So if you can create an environment which is enjoyable and memorable, the stuff you're learning on that day is more likely to stick.
Yeah, definitely.
So if the alternative is to go into some stuffy conference room in a hotel, which happens in 99% of cases, or you could go to a park or a beach or somewhere like that environment is going to be so much more stimulating. But like you say, it requires somebody that the people making those decisions to buy into that for that to work.
And I think also it's about getting dentists to think about it in a different way. So, for example, a couple of things that, if you go to the dentist and you've got a toothache but you can't quite pinpoint it, they typically bang 3 teeth until you go, oh, that's the one, that's yeah, you've got it. But when somebody comes to you and they haven't got a physical pain, they've got an emotional pain, they, don't like looking at their teeth because they've been stuck on Zoom for the last 2 years, the only way that you can get that reaction is by asking questions. Mm-hmm. And I follow a PUNT system, which is about the pain, urgency, need and trust. And it is really going down a rabbit hole and asking some questions so that people open up and expose themselves. And it's really hard for you to do that as a human being when you've actually been brought up with it's rude to ask questions, or don't talk to strangers because it's dangerous. Because your brain again is doing what it's geared to do. It's there to protect you and keep you safe. So when you get that resistance, it's because it's been drummed into you all your life that you shouldn't be doing something, and this old cowbag rocks up and says, well, this is what we've got to do. It happened to me the other day. I was in the gym and Jack had said to me, you pick these weights up and shrug your shoulders. And I could pick the weight up and I couldn't shrug my shoulders for life or money. But because of, I suppose, what I do and who I am and the training and coaching I've had myself, suddenly a little voice went, don't shrug your shoulders at me, young lady. And it was like, Christ, it's okay. I can shrug. I'm safe. I can do it.
Oh, wow. It was literally a permission thing, not a physical thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, had nothing to do with it. It was just that, unconscious brain.
Yeah.
Kind of had
hardwired that you'd never shrug your shoulders at somebody.
You shouldn't shrug your shoulders. It's rude.
Wow. So what's the future for you? What are the chapters that are coming? Have those pages got anything written on yet, or don't you know what the future holds for you yet?
Yeah, I think I do. For me, I think there's been a change financial because that's not as important to me as lifestyle. So the 12-month programme, I'm incredibly lucky that everything is on referral. So I don't really...
You need to reframe that, Tracey. You're not incredibly lucky. You've created a network of people. You've promoted yourself. You have people that trust you who recommend other people to use you. That's not luck.
See, I just say to you, I'm still work in progress. we all need coaching. But the clients that I work with recommend other clients. So I tend to only work with 10 practices over the course of the year. And I'm on schedule for that for this year. So I don't have to do too much this year. So I take a Friday off and I go to the beach no matter what the weather is, and I do something for me. Brilliant. So for me is, yes, I could grow that. I could take on 20, 30 practices. I could grow a team around me. I'm happy. I enjoy what I do. 10 practices is enough to keep me in my lifestyle. And it's just making the most of my surroundings now. And maybe I might find that rich fisherman. Who knows?
You never know.
I was going to say it's nice to hear that there's a degree of contentment, and I think a lot of people never quite get to contentment. They never quite appreciate what they've got, and they always think there's something more exciting around the corner or on the next floor or just over the fence. But to get to a stage where you look at your elements of your life and go, actually, this is really good. I've got all the things I want. That's quite nice. Would you, reflecting back on where you were and where you are, would you do anything different if you had your time again?
I suppose I would if I knew that those things were available, but I didn't know that those things were available. So I go back to the kids that are being brought up and the fact that they know about the growth mindset and they are getting coaching. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? You can buy anything and it comes with a manual, and you get the most important thing in the world, a child, and it comes with no manual. And every parent is doing the best that they can, and they might be just following on from what their parents did. So they're doing the best that they know, but actually they haven't had the coaching. And I do think that anybody that's going to bring a child into this world should have that coaching, because by the time you're 8 years old, that personality's fixed. And that is coming from your surroundings, of your upbringing and the big people around you.
Yeah, no, but yeah, no, very true. It's been fascinating. I think we could talk all day, to be honest with you. We would sit on the beach,
normally with a glass of wine,
with our shoes off. Enjoying ourselves. We appreciate your time. We always wrap up in the same way. We always ask our guests the same two questions, and the first one we ask is, if you could be a fly on the wall in a situation, is there a certain situation that you'd like to be looking in on?
Okay. I suppose given this, I'd like to be a fly on your wall when you actually read it back and go, bloody hell, did she really say that?
No, you've been. I think the great thing about you, Tracey, is you're honest, and you're honest to a fault in that you tell people exactly how it is. And I know that some people find that quite challenging, but that's almost like one of your superpowers in that you just tell people as it is, and if that works for them and they engage and they can kind of cope with that in the best sense of the word, then they're your sort of person. But if they can't, you've kind of just like disqualified people from
NBS training.
Exactly.
But I think this comes back to, practices talk this, but they don't always deliver this. It's about being true to your values, because there's one thing that will always sit with me, whether people like it or don't. But me and my sister were always brought up that no matter what you did and how bad it was, as long as you told the truth, everything would be okay. If you told the truth, you wouldn't be punished. And, that's who I am. Yeah.
No, I think that's a great guiding principle as well. And so our last question is, if you could meet somebody and sit down and have a coffee or a glass of wine, who would you like to meet?
I think that one's easy for me. It would be Brené Brown. I think the woman's amazing. I've, read a lot of her books. I've listened to a lot of her stuff. She's, very big on vulnerability and shame. I think she's, and she's certainly had to go through imposter syndrome and loads of stuff. I could talk to that woman for ages.
Excellent. So it might not be a glass of wine. You might need to
take out a bottle. I thought, yeah.
And then a week in the gym.
Or maybe at the same time. There we go.
Exactly.
That's a whole new marketing angle there.
Exactly.
Wine and gym. There you go.
There's our new business.
Yeah. We'll start a new one up.
It's been brilliant, Tracey. We really appreciate your time. I know you're busy, but it's been wonderful, and I'm pleased that your life down in Cornwall's working out. It's a lovely, it's a transformation in more than just the physical sense. I think the way you've evolved and the way you've grown and the way you've moved on from over the time that we've known you, but from before that, you really are a great person for other people to look at and take inspiration from if they're looking to improve where they're at.
Yeah, it's a brilliant evolution, isn't it?
Yeah.
As I say, we've worked and known you and worked with you for a number of years, and where you are and who you are now as to when we first met you is phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Well, I think thanks for the opportunity today, but I've got to thank you guys as well, because you gave me that break. You offered me that job in 3D loans, and that then sort of evolved into a training, and I didn't know at the time, coaching program. I remember you coming to me and saying, well, let's devise this program. I didn't even know how to bloody do a PowerPoint. I certainly didn't know anything about figures and Excel spreadsheets, and both of you took a lot of time to sit down and help me take that first step. So, if it hadn't been for you guys, then, I wouldn't be here.
Always remember the MX-5.
Yes.
Oh, so do I.
You love that car, didn't you?
Yeah, that was, that if it wasn't for the country lanes, that would be on my door, that would be just in the garage. But I've got to get the country lanes sorted first, and then I'm there.
Then you're on to that. Get back to one of those. Yeah, no, I remember the MX-5. I remember it well.
Brilliant. Lovely.
No,
thank you very much for your time, Tracey. Yeah, that's really great. Look after yourself.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks very much.
That was great talking to Tracey.
It was.
I didn't realise we'd known her for so long.
Yeah, it's a long time.
So quick. She's been in business for 9 years.
I'll tell you what, that flipping time thing just throws you, doesn't it? Unless you can actually tie it to something. I think it's fascinating from where we knew her to where she is now. That is a totally different lady.
It's funny, isn't it? We talked quite a bit.
Happier.
Yes.
Much more confident, happier in herself.
We talked quite a bit about her own sort of personal transformation with, losing weight and feeling better and healthier in herself. But you could also lay that over her business life as well, in that she's transformed from where she was. The whole thing joins up. But she deserves the success. She works hard at it.
She worked hard, yeah.
I think the thing that I like and stands out for me is she knows who she is.
Yeah. She's not a chameleon.
No.
She, if you engage with her, and that will be who you engage with.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. She's very, very clear about who she is and what she's about. But obviously, that didn't start like that. When she talked about her childhood, kind of hiding at school, not wanting to be seen. Whereas now, that confidence comes out, and it's quite infectious, isn't it? When you speak to people of that style, it's hard not to get drawn
people
into that
really
energy.
need to have a conversation with. Do you know what I mean? We've known her for a while. We know some of her history.
Yeah.
And you just think, if you could collar her somewhere to have a conversation with her, you would find it, I think, quite remarkable.
Yeah.
Because, what we spent 30 minutes, but you can only get a little essence of it, can't you?
Yeah.
But her story is fascinating.
Yeah. No, it was really enjoyable.
It was really good.
Really, really enjoyable.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Dentology, where we discuss the business of dentistry. If you like what you heard, please do subscribe where you found this episode. That would be amazing. And also follow us on Instagram.